Hi everyone and welcome to my Unfiltered 20s.
A podcast about the ups and downs, highs and lows, and realities of life in your 20s.
By me, Abbey Parker.
And me, Lucy Martin.
With special guests every week.
This week we're joined by one of our other flatmates, Jacob Jefferson, to talk about films, because he's really into films, so we thought what better time to talk about films on this podcast. So Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, as Lucy said, I'm Jacob. I live with Lucy and Abbey. I did in first year, and now I'm in third year as well. And yes, I'm a massive film fan, and I was probably obviously I would have rather lockdown didn't happen, but lockdown was lovely for getting through lots and lots of films.
So everyone, how was your week?
Pretty hectic, to be honest. I thought last week was busy. This week has been a lot worse. I think all of my modules just decided that week 3 was, presentations and weird, I know in history you have a lot of reading, but for me it was a weird amount of reading this week, just random stuff like that. But apart from that, it's been good. Just busy.
My week was a sort of mix of intense stuff and not intense stuff. I had a job interview this morning, which was very intense, but then other stuff has kind of been let down. I've had 2 meant to be in-person seminars cancelled and moved to online because there are a few people isolating. It was kind of a shame. I was sort of raring to go for in-person seminars and actually ready to be on campus for only about the 3rd or 4th time so far this term, and still just stuck in a room.
I think that's one thing we should mention is every week we talk about what the different guests have been applying for and gearing up to do after graduation, and Jacob's been sort of applying for grad schemes and he's had a lot of interviews, so maybe you could say a bit about how the interviews have been and how it is applying for jobs and stuff rather than masters, because that's more what we've talked about before, isn't it?
Very repetitive. It's kind of annoying. They all seem to want you to fill out exactly the same things, and all of the tests are very similar, different sort of personality tests and maths tests that they make you do. Part of me just prefers it if it would be sort of a bit more standardised, but also at the same time, if you do badly once, then that would kind of mean you've lost the total. So it's probably good that you have different opportunities. One thing I do hate, which lots of them do, is have these pre-recorded interviews where a question comes up on the screen. There's not another person there, but you have sort of 30 seconds to think of an answer, and then you have 2 minutes to actually say an answer. And I do find them very strange. They're obviously very impersonal. Just talking to a screen, and I don't know those. And this morning I had interviews with actual people, which I much preferred.
Sounds stressful to have to think of stuff on the spot to say to a computer, because you can't even get the approval of the person being oh yeah.
You can't even clarify. Yeah. Because there was one question I had this morning where I just wanted to clarify it with the interview. You can't even clarify.
That's weird.
That, and also if you mess up, I don't know, if I was with an actual person and I started answering the question, I was actually, no, I want to answer it a different way. They usually be quite reasonable and say yes, but with this, especially when you're timed, first of all, it's weird to speak to a computer to say, I'm just going to start again.
Yeah.
And also, there's the time's running out, so you've lost the time to actually restart. I'm sure you can reset yourself within the 2 minutes, and some of them allow you to film it again once if you just say there was a technical issue. But most of them, that's kind of one shot and you're out, which is why I have to message everyone to say no interruptions every time there's one.
Yeah, that's the thing about living in student houses. It's hard to do these sort of online seminars and stuff because you get noise in the background. We have really noisy neighbours, don't we? And it's car alarms, screaming.
The same car alarm's gone off every day for the past week. Every day it's been I'm why has your car got so many issues?
And then there's Despacito at 6 a.m. in the morning.
That was, yeah.
What have you all been watching, reading, listening to this week?
So since we were watching Forbidden History recently, I think last week we talked about it, Lucy's been insistent, you have to watch Da Vinci Code, So we decided we were going to watch it, then it wasn't on any streaming services. But the other day it got added to Netflix. So the other night we sat down and watched it, and it was different to how I thought it would be.
I don't know what you were expecting. It's pretty stand up what the title says. I think you were expecting it to be more the different historians and stuff, weren't you?
Well, I don't know. I think I don't really know what I was expecting. I think most of the film was fine. Like, well, it was good. Like what I had expected, kind of more along the lines of what I thought it would be. But it's just that first bit where they're like running away from the police, and it's suddenly a like spy film, and she's like zooming backwards like she's James Bond in like her little smart car, and I was like, what's this then? Like, this is weird.
Have you read the books?
No, I've never read the book.
No,
I haven't. I've only watched the films. I mean, there's 2 sequels as well. It's kind of
Yeah.
drawn out a bit in terms of the films. They're quite entertaining, but
Well, Angels and Demons is not that
better.
good.
I actually preferred the film Angels and Demons to Da Vinci Code.
Did you?
Yeah, I found it a bit more interesting being in the Vatican. I found that setting a bit more interesting.
I didn't. I preferred because I like the story of the Da Vinci Code is like more mysterious and stuff.
Yeah, that is true.
I don't know. I mean, it's all right. Angels and Demons. I haven't read the book. I haven't read any of the other books, but I feel like it didn't have as much of the like hype around it as well.
right, yeah.
But you were terrified, weren't you?
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure how scary it was going to be. Well, first of all, I'm very squeamish. So as soon as there's, blood, I tend to be okay with. But anyone, like, I get freaked out when I see a plaster on someone. Like, my legs go to jelly, let alone,
A guy whipping himself.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So that I couldn't watch that because it just made me squirm.
So I finished Stranger Things. Well, I guess finished is because there's more series. Finished isn't necessarily really true, but I finished where it's gone up to right now. I started watching it in late August, so to be honest, I haven't done that well in terms of getting through it.
There's not that much of it. I watched it all in one day.
Yeah, it's 24 episodes.
Well,
25
Lucy,
episodes.
that's a bit embarrassing, I think.
2 seasons in one day.
Okay, fine. No, I kind of just, it was more like 2 episodes a weekend kind of thing. I absolutely love it and really looking forward to the next series. I think I'm very much someone who is a bit 80s nostalgic, obviously having never existed in the 1980s. I'm still very nostalgic for 80s sort of music and film. So I do kind of love it, when they all dress up in the Ghostbusters outfits. I kind of love that stuff, and the music as well was really, really, really cool, and I really, really love it. And also, Lucy, you said you watched this as well. I watched on Netflix. When did it come on Netflix? I assume last Friday. But the trial of the Chicago 7. It's weird. Obviously it's about if people don't know, it's about the people who were involved in the 1968 riots in Chicago, and the government tried to sort of prosecute them for breaking sort of certain trespassing and crossing state lines to protest or anything. It's interesting. I knew quite a lot about the actual riots themselves. I knew they happened. I knew their relation to sort of high politics and the Democratic Party, but I never actually knew that anyone was actually prosecuted as a result of it. In terms of, obviously, I knew people were arrested for sort of petty
but
crimes.
not like a trial like
but
this.
I didn't actually know it was in that way. What did you think of the film?
I thought it was really good. Like, I think the actors as well were literally such a good choice. Like, Sacha Baron Cohen plays this guy called Abbey, who's like the head of like the Yippies or whatever.
What do you think of his accent? It was a bit shaky, I thought. His American accent.
He was trying to go for like a Chicago-y accent, wasn't he? But it was, because he's English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it wasn't that great, but I thought he was really good at it. And what's his name? Eddie Redmayne also.
Yeah, no, he was good.
I thought he was such an odd choice of casting when I first saw he was in it, because he plays this like head.
He's sort of the main figurehead of their group, and you don't necessarily associate him with being like a strong leading man.
No, especially not in a film about like politics in America, because he doesn't really do like. He does British films, really, doesn't he, more than anything? I don't know. But he was really good in it as well. And I think you'd really like it, Abby. It's very, like, even though it's, like, a serious subject, like, there are bits of it that are, like, quite funny. Like, there are things that, like, they do in the courtroom that, like, really, like, annoy the judge and stuff, which are, like...
I did wonder during the film, like...
whether that's true.
I'm sure it's exaggerated. I mean, it must be exaggerated.
But
but I wonder if any of that actually happened, because there's a lot of times where... the defendants interact a lot with the judge and sort of take the mick out of him, because the one Sacha Baron Cohen plays, he has the same surname as the judge, and there's sort of a bit of banter about that. But I actually wonder if it's true, if Aaron Sorkin's the one who wrote it, sort of best known for writing The West Wing, best known for writing very sort of fast-paced, witty, conversations. I wonder whether how much I feel like there must have been some of that, otherwise it'd been weird to even include the sort of
There
humorous
must be
bits.
some truth to some of
Yeah.
it. But it was really good. And it's like, I feel like it's quite topical as well with like a lot of stuff, the movements going on around the world today. I think it was like, would recommend it to anyone.
I recommend it to my parents to watch. I feel like it's a sort of parenty film.
Yeah,
They
because
kind of
obviously they weren't alive, but like it's like just before their generation a bit, isn't it?
it's 75% of the film is kind of courtroom.
Yeah.
So 75, maybe half of it is sort of is courtroom thriller.
Yeah.
I feel that's the type of film that
Yeah.
people of that kind of
Age
like.
Yeah. It's really good. I don't know what else
Yeah.
I've been watching this week. Oh, I do. I can't remember if I talked about this last week, but I've started watching The Crown again. Because the new season's coming out soon, right? When's the new season out?
This
Is
month?
it out?
Later in this month? It's in a few weeks, I
A
think.
few weeks. Because
Oh, okay.
I've now on the third season, I think. That's the one with like the new cast, isn't it? Like Olivia Colman and stuff. And it's just good. Like, I didn't really like the first season as much because I thought it was quite slow. And I'm just not really that interested in like the 50s. But now it's like the 60s. I'm into it. I like it. It's good.
Have you seen the JFK episode yet?
Yes.
Okay, what did you think?
I didn't really know that they met the Queen. Like, I didn't know they'd met the royal family. And then all the stuff about Jackie, like, talking behind the Queen's back and stuff, I was like, oh, this is juicy. I didn't know this actually happened.
I know. I think it was my favourite episode in the series. Because I thought it was interesting how they kind of, like, insinuated that the people looking after Jackie had deliberately left her in the same clothes and things like that to like garner like sympathy and stuff.
Well, they did.
Like, I thought, I guess, I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. It's just, I just find it interesting how they all, like, the people that are looking after her work for the president, right? The president's just died, and then instead of worrying about her like mental health, they're like, let's maintain the public image of the president.
Have you seen the film Jackie with Natalie Portman?
I've not seen that.
It's quite an interesting film.
Is it?
Looking, obviously, it's solely from her point of view. In the sort of the aftermath of the Kennedy assassination. It's a good one, and it definitely does sort of try and analyse her sort of.
Yeah, because I don't know that much about Jackie really.
Yeah, sort of her inner feelings and that.
Because
I
that's
mean,
the thing, right? Like, they really played on, well, the Democrats really played on JFK's death, and that's how LBJ got a lot of support to do, like, the radical reforms that he did. So it makes sense that they would be like, don't change your clothes. We want the public to really remember Kennedy when they're thinking about voting and stuff. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's just, I just hate all that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
manipulating the public like that. It's weird. I think it's really weird that like the people that work in the government have that much control. I guess it makes sense because you wouldn't want one person in control, but I don't know. The American government just freaks me out a bit.
We're going to talk a bit about our favourite films. I've asked everyone to think of their 5 favourite films, and we're basically going to dissect whether they're good or not. Should we go with Jacob first?
I'll go first. I mean, this is quite easily changeable, but these are definitely 5 of my favourite. Let's say 100 films or something like that.
100?
So this is actually my favourite film, and I've always said it's my favourite film for about the last 7 or 8 years. So Stand By Me, sort of 1986 coming of age film with River Phoenix. Do you want me to go into more depth in that film, or shall I go through the rest of the?
Go through.
I'll go through the rest of them. So the rest aren't necessarily in order, but I'd say Singing in the Rain, the 1950s classic musical, sort of the ultimate feel-good film for me.
I wouldn't have thought that for you. Like, that would be one of your faves. Like,
I love it. I sort of fell in love. I can't remember.
Is
Sort
it
of A-level summer. I must have watched it with Gene Kelly.
Gene Kelly, yeah.
And Debbie Reynolds, who's Carrie Fisher's mother.
Oh, I didn't know she was in
she's
it.
she's the sort of leading lady of
Right.
it. Third one is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Obviously, Indiana Jones, a sort of
Incredible.
classic adventure film. Fourth is my favourite comedy, Airplane.
I've never heard of that.
You never heard of Airplane?
Who's it got in it?
Leslie Nielsen, heard of him?
No.
The cast aren't that famous. The joke is that it's lots of like the film's from 1980. Yeah, 1980. The joke is that it's lots of sort of washed up 50s and 60s serious stars, and they're all being sort of being funny for the first time in their career. but it's down on sort of record as the film with the most laughs per minute, as in the most.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 85 minutes long, 90 minutes long. It's the funniest, and it's Have you heard of the film The Naked Gun?
Yeah. I've heard
Yeah,
of
so
that.
that stars Leslie Nelson, and it's by the same directors, and it's kind of
okay.
the same kind of humour, which is also one of my favourite comedy films.
Have you heard of that, Abbey?
No.
You haven't heard of Airplane? Wow.
No.
Yeah, it's basically like a. Well, I'm not. The plot isn't that important, but it's just it's.
Are they on an airplane?
Yeah, it's on an airplane and it's going to crash, and
Okay.
they need to sort of save it. I probably watched it first when I was about 12, 13. I must have seen it about 7 or 8 times. It's one of my favourite films. And my fifth one, I wasn't sure whether I didn't want to make it too 80s heavy, so I was going to go with another 80s film. But I've already got 3 80s films, so I went with LA Confidential, which is obviously sort of set in the 1950s, late 1940s. Crime film with Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Danny DeVito, and it is very dark, but it's sort of analysing sort of the seedy Los Angeles sort of post Hollywood golden age, and it's an incredible film. Especially, I know he's sort of cancelled, and probably rightfully so in terms of Kevin Spacey, but he is an incredible actor, and this is very early in his. Sort of early-ish in his career, sort of mid to late 90s, and he's on absolute top form.
We're not very intellectual with our films, are we, Abby? I feel like we don't know these classic films.
No, definitely not. I mean, Lucy, I think you have more knowledge than me. I don't know. I don't watch loads of films, so when I do watch one, I'm not very motivated to go back and watch something from way before my time.
My mum really likes old films. Like, she likes that channel on TV. It's called, what's it
Turner
called?
Classic Movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She loves like the old, like the silent ones as well.
Yeah, they have lots of westerns on there.
They do. Yeah. My mum loves watching westerns.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I don't think the best Indiana Jones film is Raiders. I think The Last Crusade is the best.
It is also one of my favourite films.
Because that's like the Holy Grail, Abbey, which is why you need to watch it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And also, obviously, Sean Connery
incredible.
as Harrison's father is probably the best casting ever. Having James Bond and Han Solo together in one film is
He's not that
pretty
much
amazing.
older than him, is
He's only about 10 years older.
Really?
Yeah, 10 to 15 years, yeah. But they're so good together. Their chemistry is amazing. The way they play off each other in that film is so good. You say that was actually your favourite film. That was the film when I was younger. I rewatched loads more than I watched Raiders. I think Raiders is the better film, but I remember whenever I was ill at home from school, that was the film I sort of put on straight away in the morning, like because it's funner. Yeah, because it has it has lots of the characters from the first film as well coming back, like Brody and Salah, and they're sort of comedy sidekicks. It's much funner film.
Oh yeah, well Raiders is quite heavy, really, because it's about like, I don't know, like it's just quite, and the bit at the end I don't like where they
the
open
faces all
and their
melt.
faces melt off.
No, that is quite disturbing.
It's squeamish, Abby.
It's very disturbing.
Like, but I feel like that's one of the heavy. Oh no, Temple of Doom is probably heavier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But then the last one's also funny.
Temple of Doom was the reason they introduced, because it used to be in terms of the film ratings, like PG, America is R, but here it's 15. But that was the reason in America they introduced the PG-13.
Really?
Because it was like, most of the film isn't that dark, but there are certain scenes bits, which are really gruesome, like when the guy pulls the heart out of someone.
Right.
I think that film, that and Gremlins, which came out in the same year, those were the films which...
Why Gremlins? I mean...
Gremlins has a lot of blood.
Does it?
It's sort of a comedy horror film, so...
Is it?
A lot of the things on screen are very violent, but it's all funny.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that balance. So those films are the reason they actually created the PG-13. In England we call it 12 or 12A, but that didn't come in until a couple of decades later.
Right.
But in America, those films were why.
The last one's good as well because it has Shia LaBeouf in it, and it's like later, isn't it?
I mean, lots of people hate it.
I really like King
I find it quite fun, but a lot of people hate it.
It's not the best one, but I like that more than Temple of Doom because I just think the story is good.
Shia LaBeouf is a bit annoying though, isn't he?
He wasn't then. Now I'm like, he's now, yeah. But yeah, you need to watch. I can't believe you've never watched Indiana Jones, Abbey. Like what?
Well, okay. I didn't know until like 3 weeks ago that Lucy even liked Indiana Jones. She really kept it hidden, and suddenly she
Well,
was
if you'd
like,
asked, I would have told you.
this
It's never
pool
come
of
up in
knowledge.
conversation.
Well, no, I guess not. I don't know. I do think as someone that hasn't watched any of the films, when I think of Indiana Jones, I do associate with like the Holy Grail and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the picture I have in my head. Him like jumping into a cave or something. I don't know.
So have you seen James Bond on the similar sort of...
You
Why
have
are you
seen
asking me this?
one of them. You must have
Listen,
seen,
okay,
like,
can I just
Casino
defend
Royale.
myself for a second? My mother hates spy films and action films and anything with guns in. Okay, so it was never
James
on in the
Bond's
house.
a classic. Like, how can you not see
Do you know-
classics?
a lot of the films we watch is defined by our parents. I think.
guess.
Like when you're younger, at least definitely.
Yeah.
It's the same with music as well.
Listen-
It's massively influenced. Like the reason I like Indiana Jones and James Bond is because my dad sat me down
Yeah.
and made me watch them. But
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of people just don't really have the.
Exactly.
When I was like 13, like I went through a phase of being obsessed with Goldfinger, so I would watch Goldfinger every day.
That's
like,
my sister's favourite James Bond film, actually.
I think
in fact.
it's my favourite probably. Like
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Oh, it's the best Sean Connery one, definitely.
Yeah, and Sean Connery's my favourite James Bond. So yeah, you carry
I
on.
don't know. It's just like, they release the big single from the film, and it's always number one without a doubt. And I'm like, why though? Why does everyone just assume it's going to be good? Why don't they just? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Because
I
there are
don't-
some quite
can't
bad James
remember.
Bond songs. It's just the recent ones, Adele and Sam Smith, which have done the.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
And well, did they even release? Yeah, they did release Billie Eilish's one, but obviously the film hasn't been released yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot it was Billie Eilish doing the new one.
I think that fits though. I feel like her voice fits well.
I thought it
with,
was a good song.
The vibe.
I haven't heard it. Yeah, some of the older ones are more obscure. Like I don't think I could name. I know obviously there's Goldfinger and then Live and Let Die, but like I don't think I could name.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can name every single. Like I'm
No.
not sure I could put every single song to every single film. Probably 75% of them, but there's probably a quarter of
the
them which are
obscure
quite obscure. Especially
The Pierce Brosnan ones, I don't think I could name the songs for.
well, Madonna did the Die Another Day one.
Really?
But I said no one knows that song. It's not a
No, I
not
don't
a
think I know
well-known
that
song
one.
at all. Yeah, to be honest, you're right. Actually, GoldenEye, Tina Turner.
Yeah, that one.
But the other Pierce Brosnan ones are pretty obscure.
Yeah, I don't think I could name. Abby, what are your top 5 favourite films ever?
I mean, I don't have. This is the thing. I feel like people that are into films have these really like intellectual film choices, and then I'm out here like, oh my god, when I was a kid, I loved Bride Wars. Like that's my.
No, mine are more like rom-com-y, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I for some reason really like Bride Wars, and then I remember I went for like when I was like 14, we all went around this girl's house and they put Bride Wars on, and I was like reading the script in my from memory, and they're like, "Can you stop? That's really annoying." But About Time's one of my favourites.
I love About Time.
Yeah, I think. Well, we were talking about Rachel McAdams recently, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it's back on Netflix, so I'm gonna watch it soon. And then, have you seen The Big Sick?
Is that...
Either of you?
I think I've seen it on Netflix. It's on Netflix, right?
No, it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, Amazon
I
Prime, yeah,
think.
that's it. I've seen it on one of those, and it's on my list, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so this is the thing. Hardly anyone's seen it, but me and my friend Aisha were like obsessed when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's written by Camille Nanjiani and his
Oh
wife.
yeah, he got nominated for an Oscar for it, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Screenplay,
So he.
Oh.
Yeah, he played it because it's written about him and his wife's story, and so he plays himself in it, and basically he's a comedian in real life, so the story is when he met his wife, he was in this small little comedy club, and then they kind of accidentally fell in love or whatever, but so he's from Pakistan, and he moved when he was like 10 or whatever to America, and then she's a white girl who grew up in America, and then the whole film is like, well, basically she finds out that he hasn't told his parents because they're trying to arrange a marriage for him, and then so she dumps him, and then she goes into a coma. So then the film is him in the hospital with the parents, her parents, and then obviously they know what's happened. But then he bonds with the parents while she's asleep, and then she wakes up and it's completely different because they've bonded. I shouldn't have said that. Spoiler.
Thank you.
Spoiler.
I was going to watch it as well.
Yeah, but it's a comedy. It's funny.
Okay.
It's good. I really like the new remake of Aladdin. I thought that was really good.
Really? I thought that had like really bad reviews. Like everyone said
Did
it was
it?
like really bad.
I liked it. I think some of the songs were a bit cheesy, but I like that. It's a Disney film. It's meant to be. But I liked it. I thought Will Smith was good. I mean, after they edited him to look less, because the original trailer they released, they had to redo.
He looked terrible,
Genie,
didn't he?
right? Yeah,
Really?
it looked really weird.
It's a bit like the Sonic film, which after
Oh,
the trailer
yeah.
came out, they edited him because the reaction was so bad.
What was it? Didn't he have... He had like hands or something.
I can't remember what it was.
was.
I'm not really a Sonic person, so I can't remember
I think the
specifics.
Or
eyes
his
were weird
as
as
well. He had
well.
human eyes rather than like Sonic's
Yeah.
eyes. Like. So my favourite films ever, like I do love a good 90s rom-com. So whenever anyone asks me what my favourite film is, I always say 10 Things I Hate About You, which is an incredible film.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably my most like unexpected cry in a film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
Does it make
kind of took me by surprise because I did kind of just think it would be like an average.
Yeah.
And I watched it because it has like Heath Ledger in and
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
it has quite a well-known cast, and
Yeah.
that's why I watched it. But it really actually quite unexpectedly kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but in the last
Yeah.
scene when something's read out
Yeah.
in front of the class, that actually sort of made me tear up.
Really? I don't think
it-
even I cry at that.
Oh,
like-
wow. Do you cry? Okay, do you at least cry at the bit where he sings
Yeah.
the "I Love You, Baby"?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Great film. And I
Guy.
love Heath
Good, good.
Ledger as well. Like, Heath Ledger's probably one of my favourite actors, which is a bit odd for me because I like him in like Dark Knight and stuff.
Brokeback Mountain.
I've never seen Brokeback
You haven't
Mountain.
seen Brokeback
No.
Mountain?
But yeah, and then also I doubt you guys have seen this, but it's got Mark Ruffalo in it. 13 going on 30.
No, I haven't seen.
It's like
No.
a cheesy 90s rom-com, and it's got Mark Ruffalo in it, who I love. And it's like basically this girl wakes up because she's on her 13th birthday. She's like, I wish I was older, because she hates being 13. She hates her friends, like all of that. So she like wakes up as a 30-year-old, and it's great. It's a great film. And then Love, Rosie. Have you seen Love,
Oh,
Rosie?
of course.
No, I was thinking Love Simon for a second, but that's a different film, isn't
No,
it?
it's a different film.
Yeah.
Love, Rosie is one of my all-time favourite films because Sam Claflin and Lily Collins are literally like my favourite actors ever. So both of them in one of my favourite books. Perfect. Because the book was originally called Where Rainbows End, but apparently it was like the American audience didn't understand it, so they had to change it to Love, Rosie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like with the Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter
Yeah, the Sorcerer's.
book is the Philosopher's Stone, and in America it's called Sorcerer's Stone.
I don't know what they wouldn't understand about.
And a philosopher.
Well, no, the rainbow. I mean more. But
Yeah, I know. But yeah, and then Jacob already said Raiders of the Lost Ark, but one of my favourite films is The Last Crusade, which you've already talked about. And then, I want to say Crazy Rich Asians, actually. I know we talked about
Yeah.
it like 2 weeks ago, but I think it's honestly made its way onto my favourite films.
I mean, I can't put it on there yet because I've only seen it once.
Do you
I feel
have to
like I
see it
need
more
to-
than once for it to be
I
fair?
don't know. I feel like if I haven't wanted to watch it more than once, it can't have been that good.
Okay,
But I do want to, but I haven't yet. Do you know what I mean?
I get you. You know, one
So-
film that was always on my list, but it recently got pushed off by some of the others, was The Imitation Game. You know about Alan
Alright.
Turing?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, it's like one of
Oh,
my
it's a
favourite
great film.
films. I
That's-
don't know why I
that's a
love it so
fantastic
much.
film.
Have you seen it, Abbey?
Mm-mm.
It's about the guy that cracked the Enigma code, Alan Turing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't seen it.
Right. So, obviously, this year we haven't really been able to go to the cinema that much, and a lot of films have been put off production and being released and stuff. What is one film that you guys are looking forward to coming out in the next like months or year or so? Jacob, you go first.
Well, to be honest, by the time you might release this podcast, it probably had have come out already, but Borat 2,
When's that out?
I think it comes out tomorrow on Amazon.
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, which I'm really looking forward to, especially when I loved Borat. I've seen it about 4 or 5 times.
I've never seen
You
it.
haven't seen it?
I don't
Oh.
know why.
It's such a sort of cultural, as in you must know, obviously, like
I know, yeah. I
sort
know,
of the
like,
phrases
character
and
stuff.
the nice and all that. But yeah, no, I'm very excited, especially because it was a complete secret that he was making it, Sacha Baron Cohen. They only
Yeah, I
said
didn't
about a
know,
month ago, and there's lots of sort of things have been leaked from it, where he's sort of dressed up and interrupted Mike Pence talk
Really?
at a conference hall, and also there's something with Rudy Giuliani as well, where he's sort of tried to frame him doing something inappropriate, which came out yesterday, but
Really?
Rudy's kind of already said it's a complete falsehood and all that, but I guess we'll see in the film.
Yeah.
But also, I'm also sort of interested to see how, because the funny thing about the joke about Borat was that when he first did in the first film, when he interacted with people dressed up as Borat, people thought he was a real person, and all of it's filmed on the basis that everyone there thinks he is actually. They actually think he's someone from Kazakhstan, and filming a documentary. But obviously now everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
So I'm actually interested to see how they change it, because everyone interacting with him is going to know.
Yeah.
Surely, I mean, maybe some people don't know who he is or would forget, but
It won't
surely
be the same.
it's not going to be the same. So I'm
Yeah.
actually interested to see how he adapts the character to fit that.
I'll have to watch it by the time the second one comes out, won't I? I'll have to hurry up. I mean, mine's a bit further away, but obviously Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, he wrote another musical called In the Heights, which is one of my favourite musicals ever, and they made a film that was supposed to be coming out in July this year, and it's got Anthony Ramos in it, who played like a leading role in Hamilton on Broadway, but it was supposed to come out in July, but now they've postponed it till next July, which is a shame, but hopefully by then we'll be able to properly enjoy it in the cinema and stuff. But that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I think my
and
cousin was
the
talking
new
about
James
that.
Bond film, of course, as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's been moved again, hasn't it?
Has it?
To,
Has it?
Well, it was meant to come out in November, wasn't it? And now it's coming out in March, April or something.
No, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway.
I think I'm looking forward to the new Mulan movie. I mean, technically, some people have already seen it. Technically, it's already come out, but I'm not paying 20 quid
Right.
to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
going to wait
it's-
until it's out for everyone.
Yeah, it's gonna be free soon in like a few months, I think.
Wait, where will we be able
Well, it's
to
on
watch
Disney
it?
Plus, so you have to pay the Disney Plus
Yeah.
subscription anyway. But they
Yeah.
wanted you to pay an extra £20.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Which I was like, no.
Especially like for a film you already know what happened,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
come out before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it would just be interesting because obviously it's not a musical this time. There's no music in it.
Is there not?
No, because the music was like offensive.
Oh, I
So-
quite like the
I've never seen Mulan.
Mulan.
Well, yeah,
I'm not a Disney
It's-
person.
I've only seen it once, quite a long time ago. But I remember
they've
liking
also
one of the
cut
songs.
out. I can't remember what the.
But did they
little
cut out the
dragon's
Eddie
called.
Murphy dragon?
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
cut him out.
To be honest, it would be a bit weird to have him in a live action film. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the cricket's my favourite character. I want to know where he is. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see what they do with it. So, what are people's recs this week?
So I've never listened to them before, but one of their songs came up on my shuffle on Spotify, like Haim, the band, because their album came out this week, I think. It's called Women in Music Part 3, and I think they recorded it in lockdown, or at least they've been performing it in lockdown. So I saw on YouTube that for BBC Radio 1, they literally all did it from their bedrooms, and they've got like their keyboards and their drum sets at home, and it was so good. Like I think they're really good. So yeah. Jacob, what about you? What are you going to recommend?
I'm going to recommend. Obviously, on the film theme, I'm someone who I do have Netflix, and I do watch stuff online, but I do much prefer having physical copies of films. I guess it makes me feel a bit more closer to a film, like more ownership, and I also like sort of building up a nice collection. But also DVDs can be quite expensive, especially when compared to if you buy them brand new, they're quite expensive. So what I kind of discovered recently, maybe I probably should discover it more, is charity shops, because they have loads and loads of DVDs. There's one on the street that we live called Scope, which I've in the last few days, I think I've got about 8 films in there for £2, and obviously they were second-hand DVDs, but they're not sort of in bad condition at all.
Yeah.
I'd recommend if you like to own physical media and DVDs, but also don't want to pay high Amazon or HMV prices, then looking at second-hand DVDs. CEX is another good one, but charity shops are even cheaper, and they don't seem to change the price compared to what the film is. It's sort of just everything. They had three films for £1, no matter what, if it was recent or old or in the middle.
Same with books, honestly. Like Oxfam Books, so many good deals, and they literally just put the price like at a standard thing. I can't remember, I haven't been in ages, but it's normally like $1.99 or something.
Yeah, they had lots of sort of old CDs and records in there as well, which I think were a similar price.
Records.
And the records are so expensive when you go to
they're like
stores.
£30 for a new record.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jacob, for coming on and talking about films. You clearly have a lot more knowledge than me, so that was interesting.
Next week, we're going to be talking about all things Halloween, because it's nearly time for Halloween. So it's just going to be us next week, just a chill episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other podcasting platforms. We're actually currently not uploading to SoundCloud because there are a few issues, but we're working on it. Make sure you follow us on social media, Unfiltered 20s on Twitter, and Unfiltered 20s podcast on Instagram for updates and general content.
Thanks for coming on, Jacob.
My pleasure.